Hey, what's up, everybody? FalseProof here, back again for another interview for Jet Set Understand. Our guest this time is more on the musical side of things with the Jet Set Radio fandom. His new album, Boogie Down Bantam, comes out June 29th for the 20th anniversary of Jet Set Radio. You've probably heard his other album, 99th Street Bounce. It's DJ Chidow. What's going on, man? How are you?
What's good, everybody? This your boy coming from the shades of the underground, DJ Chidow coming through. I'm here with FalseProof. You already know what it is. What's good, False? You already know how I'm chilling, making music every day, trying to live my best life, as always, and trying to be a cool Rudy to the people.
Fair enough. Actually, let's talk about the pronunciation of your name, because I remember when I did the video on 99th Street Bounce, I kind of hit you up and I was like, how exactly do you pronounce it? And Chidow was kind of close. But, I mean, you've said, like, people have messed it up like crazy before.
I'm going to give you major props for actually asking me, because a lot of people just assume that it's either Chidow or Cheeto. Like, I'm not a snack, even though I like Cheetos. I mean, I kind of get peeved at that, because I understand it's a weird way to pronounce it. But at the end of the day, the only reason why I had to put it like that is because the real DJ Chidow would have gave me a cease and desist.
True. Now, that being said, would you take that Cheetos brand deal if they approached you?
I mean, shit. I would. I probably would. I ain't even gonna flex.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you. I mean, gotta make that cash somehow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Product placement. Gotta do it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's kick it off. Pretty much asked most people this already, but what exactly was your first experience with Jet Set Radio? Like, how did you get into the series?
Let's see. I want to say by 2006, 2007, my sister had an original Xbox.
Yeah.
And with that, it kind of cascaded into somewhat me vaguely remember having the SEGA GT 2002 and Jet Set Radio Future combo disc.
Yeah.
But I never played it. You know what I mean? I was always prominent into playing either Sonic, Halo, Tetris. You know, I was into more sort of popular titles, and Jet Set Radio Future was like that game when I was younger. I kind of grazed over it, like, I'd rather play Shadow the Hedgehog and go shoot guns and shit.
I mean, Shadow the Hedgehog's like a good game. Very different than everything else that Sonic was doing at the time, but, you know.
See, unpopular opinion, I really enjoyed Shadow the Hedgehog, and a lot of people would be like, well, it's because he's a black hedgehog and he's shooting everything and his music is edgy like Limp Bizkit, and I'm like, bro, that was my generation. Like, are you kidding me? Linkin Park?
Yeah. I mean, I like Shadow the Hedgehog. I thought it was a good game. Maybe a little different than what I was expecting, but I like the fact that it ran on the Sonic Heroes engine, and that was like one of my favorite GameCube titles for sure.
Yeah. The story was kind of like
iffy.
What is going on? It was like they could have tweaked it a little bit, but back to Jet Set Radio.
yeah, back to Jet Set Radio.
My sister had her Xbox since 2003, so we had a lot of games for it. But the main concern for me with Jet Set Radio Future was I never played it because it was nothing I was interested in. Now with Sonic, I knew about the Sonic Rush and Hideki Naganuma. And I guess you could say after I learned about Hideki Naganuma a little bit more, Jet Set Radio kind of eased around the corner like a $5 hole. Like, oh, you came back to me. What would you want? What you like? Tell me what you want. So, from there, fast forward to, I want to say 2013, I met up with a music mashup artist who was really popular at that time. His name was Loginator 999, or Logie as he was more predominantly called. And we met through a YouTuber by the name of Escape Route British.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, he was known for making the Hideki Naganuma samples video, which at that time I was sort of like really learning about Sonic sampling and like different sample CDs and sample packs. So watching that video gave me a lot of inspiration to learn about how Hideki Naganuma made music in his time. Well, with me and Logie, we had this bond, and it's funny because like one of the jokes that I cracked with him was if I ever had a full costume of Jet Set Radio Future's beat, would you take it from me? And he was like, bro, I'm a gingerhead. I will fight you over that costume.
Oh boy.
And it kind of cascaded us to having a friendship. And I want to say about like 2014, I had learned so much about Jet Set Radio's music that I actually got noticed by Hideki Naganuma for a remix of Fly Like a Butterfly.
Oh yeah, okay, cool.
And from there, I kind of just was, experimenting with my musical styles because I was still ever evolving and trying to figure out what was comfortable for me at that time. And there was a time where I had listened to some drum and bass, and I was really into getting into another Sega IP, Nights into Dreams.
Yeah.
So I remember making a post saying, would it be cool if Nights was in Jet Set Radio and she had her own theme? And Logie just came out of the woodworks, was like, bro, I would work on that so quickly. And I was like, hey, you want to collab? And he was like, bet. So it took us legitimately, I want to say, a few months to make Theme of Nights, which was a track that was featured on 99 Street Bounce.
Yeah, I like Theme of Nights. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was something that I was really trying to try different from Fly Like a Butterfly, like the original version of Fly Like a Butterfly that I made back in that time. Because the version of Fly Like a Butterfly that you hear on 99 Street Bounce was my second attempt that I did back in 2016.
Okay.
So it's completely different.
Yeah.
And if I do ever get the chance, I might leak it on my YouTube page so everybody can hear how cringy it is. But
that's the question though.
time.
If you leak it yourself, is it really considered a leak?
I have no clue. I want to share.
You just want to share it?
Things.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I think people are kind of interested in listening to old demos. You could even like flip your old thing and see what you could make something new.
I could. So that was 2014. I want to say a year later in 2015, I really wanted to play Jet Set Radio because there was like so much hype about it. And at that time, it's like 2012, Jet Set Radio had been remastered. So I was like, I need to play it.
Yeah.
Gladly enough, I had a Steam account. And I want to say Sega had this deal going on where you could get Jet Set Radio for free. I jumped on that so quickly, man. You would have expected my paycheck to have been gone that day.
The whole thing, you would have just been like, wait, well, how would it be
whole
gone?
thing.
That's the question, though. It's free. How'd you lose your paycheck?
I'm just saying, if it was like, if I had to pay for it, you know what I mean?
Oh, you
I
were
would've
that
been
into
like,
it, okay.
I would have been like Philip J. Fry from Futurama, just shut up and take my money. So I bought the game, right? I had such an issue trying to get my controller to work with the PC, because at the time, I had an old jacked up freaking PC controller where the analog sticks were so wonky that it didn't really work out for me. Let's just call it for what it is. The analog sticks acted like D-pads.
Yeah, it's I don't know what it is about the PC port of Jet Set Radio, but trying to map a controller is just not fun. It sucks.
It's nerve-wracking. It is really nerve-wracking. So I want to say I didn't touch Jet Set Radio for about 3 to 4 years after I had bought it. So when it came time in 2018, when I was really starting to get back into Jet Set Radio, I was like, you know what? I have the game. And what really wanted me to play it again was one of my friends who had a YouTube page, and he's also like really close with me. His name is Vita Mocha. Shouts out Vita Mocha if you're paying attention to this video. He was playing Jet Set Radio, and I was like, I've heard of the game. I actually have the game. And he was like, do you play it? And I was like, I can't because my controller sucks. So I was like, you know what? It's time. So I went and I bought a authentic PS3 controller, mapped it, everything, reset everything so that way it works on the computer. And when I loaded the game back up, oh my lord, I felt like I was hitting home for some reason. It was just so beautiful playing the game. And this was, I want to say, the end of April going into May. So I pretty much spent my whole time playing Jet Set Radio, and I beat the game. I didn't 100% it, but I beat the game because I had so much of a big headache with the time constraints and the clunky controls when you're trying to speed up and everything like that, and you can't get to the grind rail on time, and then the police officers are chasing you and you hit a wall and they just grab onto you. It was pretty tough. But I managed to 100% it, and I was like, okay, I beat Jet Set Radio. This is a fun game. And I think around that time I had learned about Future a little bit more, and I was like, you know what? Since I beat the original Jet Set Radio first before Future, let me see if I can play Future. So I pulled out my sister's original Xbox, collecting dust and everything like that, opened it up, sprayed it out, cleaned it, removed the clock capacitor, added some thermal paste to the heat sinks of the GPU and CPU, made that bad boy look glistening into the sun, and I was like, okay, the controller, everything works, but the controller doesn't work. And then I realized when I opened up the controller, the PC board was shot.
Wait, on the
and
actual,
I was like, ah,
on the controller.
On the controller, like it was like the solder points to the controller that goes to the control port on the Xbox was lifted. Like it was just lifted. There was no connection or nothing.
Damn.
So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna go to my local game store and buy another Xbox controller. So I asked my best friend Cody if he could take me up to the game store, and I was like, hey bro, I'm gonna sell a couple of games just so I can get an Xbox controller. So we drove up there, and it's a local game shop, so they take a lot of mom and pop's third hand stuff and everything like that. So I pretty much walked out of there with like $13. So I was like, let me buy an Xbox controller. And I was talking to my friend about it. I was like, yo, do you remember SEGA GT 2002 with Jet Set Radio Future as a combo disc? And he was like, for the original Xbox? And I was like, yeah. He's like, dude, I stayed on SEGA GT 2002. And I don't know if it was like osmosisly, but the store owner heard me and he was like, I have a copy of that game. I was like, word? He was like, yeah. And I went and I looked at his original Xbox titles. There it was. I was like, shit, give me that. Looked at the price, it was $4.99.
That's a good price. Now it's like 20 or 30 bucks.
Only for the combo. And at that time, it was like the Jet Set Radio community was really starting to build itself up, especially with Jet Set Radio Live being a thing. So I managed to cop it at a decent price for no problem. And I had the Xbox controller with me and I had the game, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna buy this. So I bought it with the controller, took it home, and I tried to play. Like when I inserted the game into the disc, it wouldn't read. And then when I realized after I opened up my sister's Xbox, she has a Thompson TGM 600 disc drive.
Yeah.
And to people who know their knowledge on original Xbox titles, that is one of the shittiest DVD drives that you can get. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to give up on this Xbox. You better play this game. So I ended up sitting there for about 2 minutes trying to spin the game so it can read it with the laser. And when it finally loaded it up, and it showed the little screen that said Xbox demos, and the first thing that was up there was SEGA GT 2002, and at the bottom was Jet Set Radio Future. I clicked on Jet Set Radio Future so quickly, bro. When it loaded up the Sega logo, the Smile a Bit logo, and it said graffiti is art, and then it really loaded into the game, and the first thing that you're introduced to is the concept of love. Oh man, I had a I want to say, I don't know if this is legal or permission to say it, but I nutted. I high-key nutted a little bit.
See, I'm trying to think if that'll get me demonetized. I don't know.
I hope it doesn't.
Nah, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Man, when I loaded up the game, I was like, let's go. New game. Get it. Loaded me up, did the tutorial with Yo-Yo. And the first character that I choose when I got into the stage, I was like, man, I ain't really feeling Yo-Yo. I was like, where my baby Gum at? So I played Gum, and oh my God, I just felt, and the music, like what really got me was the music. The music was so different, and I was like, bro, I like this. I really do like this. And I just binged the whole game that day. I literally beat the story of Jet Set Radio Future in one day.
So first playthrough.
First playthrough, blind everything.
That's actually pretty impressive.
Man, the tutorial actually helped me a little bit because I had to sit through it because they force you to do it. So I was like, oh, screw it, whatever. So Went through the game, so it was no problem. With Future, it kind of gave me a sense of what I really enjoyed about Jet Set Radio. And I like Future a little bit more because of not only its open world style and its kick-ass music, but how Sega looked at the original Jet Set Radio and was like, let's see if we can revise this a little bit better.
Yeah.
And it showed.
I definitely agree with you. Like, I got into Future first, and I'm more about Future, but I feel like, you know, they both kind of have different qualities that I think should be showcased in a new Jet Set Radio. I don't know how you feel about that.
I would love for that, honestly. If they could be able to look at the original Jet Set Radio, see what made it good, and then look at the Future and see what made it good, and then mash them together in a way that is not only unique and uses old styles, but it's brand new, and it has this sort of, I want to say, authenticity and nostalgia to it that just makes you want to cry. You know what I mean?
Makes you want to cry.
It just makes you want to cry.
I don't know. I know I love Jet Set Radio. It's one of my favorite franchises. I can't say I've cried about it, but like I'm probably just a little different than most fans. I don't know.
It be like that sometimes. I ain't even gonna flex. I mean, I'd tear up just a little bit if they ever did that. So you know how it is. It is what it is.
I think everybody would pretty much pop off if they announced a new Jet Set Radio for sure. Here's a question for you though. You said you had issues with the PC port. Did you ever play Jet Set Radio on Dreamcast?
No, I didn't have a Dreamcast at the time.
Okay. Are you looking at maybe getting a Dreamcast?
I have a Dreamcast now because I want to say by the time I reached my freshman year of college in 2017, you know, your boy got a little bit of money from the school and was like, yeah, let's go binge this money. So the first thing that I bought for Christmas was a Dreamcast and a what is it? A Model VA1 Dreamcast. So I was like, bet. It's over. It's over.
I mean, I'm not super familiar with the Dreamcast models. I assume it's probably just like the regular white Dreamcast. Because I know there's like the Sega Sports ones and there's like the kind of like the see-through color plastic one. I'm not super familiar with the model numbers though.
Yeah, no, mine's is a regular VA1 that was manufactured in March of 2000, and it's the white model.
Okay. I mean, it would be kind of cool if you had one manufactured in June of 2000, just to, you know, match up with the game. But that's semantics, right? That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, semantics. If you want to really let the stars align the way that it should, but you know, I want to say it wasn't until about 2019 that I actually got a physical copy of Jet Set Radio for the Dreamcast.
Now, how much did you pay for that physical copy of Jet Set Radio and Dreamcast?
Let me see. I gotta go pull it out of the shelf.
You gotta pull it out. You got the little receipt on you. Oh, he's going for it. He's going for it.
I paid $35.99.
Oh, that's actually not bad, but it was used, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not too bad. Good condition though.
Great condition. This disc doesn't have any scratches on it. Like it still has the manual. Dog, it looked like somebody just had the game and just not played it, like maybe once or twice.
All right, you want to hear my flex? I know this is all about you, but I feel like I should just at least flex once, just because we're talking about it.
Go ahead.
My first eBay purchase ever was a Dreamcast. Actually, yeah, a Dreamcast and a copy of Jet Set Radio. I paid $5 for Jet Set Radio, and it was sealed.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that was a real nice, satisfying day. Just got to open that little box.
Oh man, nice. I bet you was grinning, cheesing as hard as you did from both sides of your face when you got it in the mail.
I love opening the plastic like that. Just that nice new opening smell when you're opening a new game.
It's just like as soon as you open it, all you hear is, and it just throws you off completely. I know that feeling, man. I know that feeling all too well.
I love how you just had to give me the ASMR too. Just the ASMR of like the plastic. It's beautiful.
I'm sorry, man. I gotta do it.
That's all good. You're good.
So that was 2018, right?
Yeah.
Beat Jet Set Radio Future 100%ed my whole summer vacation all the way till August. First try.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give you the props. I didn't do that on my first try. I mean, then again, I was probably maybe I don't know. The first time I played Jet Set Radio was maybe like 8 or 9. So
I know how that
didn't really have the
man.
skills.
Yeah, no, my completionist gene was like, you better finish this damn game. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. I ain't doing anything. I'm out of school. Let's play. And I beat the whole game.
Yeah. Well, it's not super hard to do, like, unlock all the characters and all that sort of thing. I mean, I remember it wasn't too bad when I did that video on the secret character guide, but it wasn't great.
It was. Let's call it for what it is. The main thing that really stressed me out was Feral Park and Sky Dinosaurian Square.
Like as levels or as like jet runs?
Both.
Okay.
Just trying to get the graffiti souls was a headache, and then having to go through the jet runs and the jet rankings and the jet crush and the jet everything just to get the jet rankings. Man, I had such a headache after trying to get the game. I was like, I'm done. I beat the game 100%. I got all the graffiti souls. I got all jet rankings. I got all the characters. Done.
I mean, personally, I really like Sky Dinosaurian Square from like a design perspective, and I mean, I didn't find it was super hard to get the graffiti souls, but I'll agree with you on Feral Park. Navigating the map is just a nightmare.
Navigating the map was a nightmare. Then trying to run on them satellites, and then on top of that was the only thing that I hated about Sky Dinosaurian Square was the anxiety that I got when I was trying to jump from grind rail to grind rail, and
yeah, it's annoying.
It's nerve-wracking.
But it's fun. It's fun. It's satisfying when you get it right, though.
Yeah, I will say that. I managed to nail it to where I can be able to do an infinite grind loop, and I could be able to just get the techniques down to like how many tricks that I want to do.
Yeah. No, that's cool. So, I mean, clearly you had a really good experience with Jet Set Radio and Jet Set Radio Future, but I feel like we're not really telling a lot of your story if we don't talk about like your origins in music. So do you want to just kind of run me through like how did you get started? When did it kind of like synthesize? When did it synchronize with Jet Set Radio when you decided you want to start producing this kind of music? How did you get started with producing?
Man, every time I tell this story to everybody, they always like they get surprised when I tell you I started making music on FL Studio when it was called Fruity Loops when I was 5 years old.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty cool.
And you know, at that time I was a little snot-nosed, troublemaking, badass kid. So me looking into making beats and, you know, trying to experiment with my styles at a young age really gave me something to do other than to just run around and get into trouble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to say by 2006, the first track that I ever produced, it was terrible, but then when I listen to it now, it's like I was really creative, and if I were to get that creative drive again, I would pay no problem just to go back in time and just say, hey bro, keep doing you. Because before I used to make like beats and everything like that, I used to recreate songs that were on the radio. So 2006, right? Crank That Soulja Boy was popular. I was able to recreate that. What else was there? There was Laffy Taffy by D4L, and then I learned how to create my own hip-hop tracks based off of that. And you know, at that time my dad was really prominent in my life, and he taught me a lot about what he learned in the music industry. Because you know, I love my dad. My dad's been there for me since day one of birth, and he always made it clear to me that like whatever you do in life, I will be there for you. And I'm like, Dad, I love you, man. I love you.
So wholesome, especially so close to Father's Day.
Exactly. Yes. So, you know, that kind of cascaded over the years. I want to say by like at least 2008, 2009, I started getting into other avenues of music making, and I want to say by like 2009, I started getting into DJing. And you know, at the time I was 10 years old, and how I got into DJing was being at one of my cousin's graduation party, and the DJ was there, and I just literally went behind the booth, and I was like, yo man, let's see if you can pull some songs up that might be good. So I was sitting there just helping them choose songs to mix, literally. Like the the annoying little girl who pulls out her phone saying, "Can you play this? Can you play that?" on a special request line. I was that dude, but I was more cool with it, and I was been like, "Hey, bro, you can do you, but try that song right there." You know what I mean? So my dad saw that, and he was like, "You want to get into DJing?" And I was like, "Yes." So I want to say like Christmas of 2009, he bought me a DJ MIDI controller. It was the Vestax VCI 100. That little thing taught me so much about mixing and DJing the way that I needed to, that I ended up having that for, I still have it, but like I ended up using that for about a good, I want to say 6 years until I decided to get rid of it.
That's impressive that it's, I know that some of the Vestax stuff they use for scratching.
You know, mine's was an entry level sort of DJ MIDI controller that like it didn't move. The jog wheels didn't move.
Okay.
And they were like 3 inches wide. So I had to learn how to scratch using a jog wheel.
Okay.
So
yeah, I'm taking a look at it right now. It's like kind of silver, I'm assuming. Is it the silver one?
yeah, it's a silver model.
So you can't actually scratch, you have to use the... So I'm not like super familiar with DJing. I have a couple friends who do it, but I'm not like super into it. So like maybe simplify it a little bit for me.
So with that model in particular, you have to touch the center where it says DJ MIDI controller at, and it lights up on the sides. And if it's blue, that means it's not being touched. But when you touch it, it turns red, and that's indicating that you're scratching. So how I was able to make my mixes was like, I never usually used the scratching unless I was queuing up a song.
Okay.
Because if I tried to scratch with it, the sensitivity would throw it off, and sometimes I would hit it too hard and it would spin the music too fast.
Okay.
Since it's not a what's the word? A motored jog wheel, and it's just like literally stationary, I had to work like that. And, you know, for the first 4 years that I had it, it was a headache, but I got used to it after a while. And then I want to say after some time of being on it, I wanted to try different styles of DJing. So after I went to that, I took a step back and pulled out my brother's turntables that he had in the garage. And I pulled them out, cleaned them up. I tested the belts and everything on it, and they're direct drive turntables. And man, if it wasn't for these turntables, I wouldn't have got into actual vinyl scratching.
Right. Because at this point, your Vestax is basically just kind of like a digital controller, and then you're actually going to like real legit vinyl records and scratching that way.
And it felt so good transitioning, man. I was like, I'd rather stick with this. And I pretty much stuck with it. The turntables that I'm talking about are the Gemini XL 500 Mark IIs.
Okay.
These bad boys is on point.
Yeah?
They're like an entry level Technics XL 1200 with half the price. And my brother had these turntables back in 2000, 1999, somewhere around there. I don't remember actually when these were manufactured. I know they're just old as dust, but they still do the job.
They still make it work for you?
They still make me cut, scratch, and cue up seamlessly. Matter of fact, the mix that I did for the 20th anniversary of Jet Set Radio, I did on these turntables.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah. So time goes by, you know, I'm collecting records through Discogs and going to different record shops to see what I can find. And at that time I was really into house music, so I was really destined to like take the time out to look for good house records that I can mix with. And you know, I've pretty much accumulated so many vinyl records that my closet literally has stacks upon stacks upon stacks of milk crates full of vinyl records.
Oh man, trying to find like the perfect milk crate to store a vinyl, nightmare, complete nightmare.
Trust me, man, I had a headache just trying to find the best ones that my dad had, because he there was a time he used to work for an actual milk farm.
Oh, okay.
And he used to take milk crates that they didn't use anymore, And those are the same milk crates that I use, honestly.
Smart move. I was gonna ask you, have you ever used like the Serato, like those? I guess there'd be like synthetic vinyls. They're not real, but essentially you just put them on like a Serato controller.
Are you
and
talking about
scratch
the
with
time-coded
those.
vinyl?
Yeah.
Yes, I actually have the tractor version of the time-coded vinyl, and
Okay.
I used that so much, bro. Let me tell you, man, there's not one time that I've not made a mix using time-coded vinyl. Like I said before with the Jet Set Radio mix, it's like a mix of, with that Jet Set Radio mix in particular, I used both regular cut vinyl records with actual grooves
Okay.
and the time-coded vinyl.
So essentially, just so for other people who may not totally get it, and I mean, like, I'm no expert either, but essentially, like, you're grabbing the files from your computer, it's loading up on your tractor controller, and then you're scratching like you would on a vinyl, like a vinyl turntable.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to clarify, just so I had it clear for everybody. Yes.
Yeah.
So essentially, you were like, he's legitimately scratching, but he's also having the benefit of like loading tracks up digitally.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think that was 2016 that I got that time-coded vinyl with the mixer that I'm using, which is a Tractor Control Z2.
Yeah. So you're scratching and you're producing stuff. So when did it kind of come together with the whole Jet Set Radio thing?
I want to say by late 2017 that I really started to take music. Well, it was 2016 that I started taking music seriously, but it wasn't until 2017 that I really was like, yo, I want to know exactly how to make professional grade music, or at least amateur level to professional grade. And I would always sit in my room and honestly lab from sampling to composing and to even trying to resequence songs and remix songs. And to be fair, all of everything that I've did up to about, I want to say 2017, I self-taught myself.
Okay. That's pretty sweet though.
So I self-taught myself how to make beats. I self-taught myself how to play the piano, how to DJ, how to play the drums, how to play the bass guitar, the electric guitar, etc., etc. The list goes on.
Okay.
I self-taught myself basically everything. And from there, it just cascaded by, I want to say, the end of May of 2016 that I really started to take a lot of my music seriously. Because before, I was just making music just to make music for, like, you know, stuff that I did on SoundCloud and Bandcamp. But it wasn't until, I want to say, April 21st of 2016 where a major event happened in my life where I just had to completely take a 180 turn and just do a lot of things differently.
Okay.
And if you want to know exactly what happened on April 21st, 2016, the artist known as Prince, which is my inspiration for a lot of the songs that I made, he passed away.
Yeah.
And I think I was a junior, and I was getting out of science class when I heard the news. I was so bent out of shape when I got to broadcast technology. I wanted to cry. I really wanted to start crying because besides Michael Jackson, Prince was a main inspiration, and a lot of the sonic composers that I listened to, like Hideki Naganuma, Fumi Kumatani, Naofumi Hataya, Masafumi Ogata, you know, a lot of them, they gave me inspiration to try to do more with my music than what I was. And once Prince passed away, that's when the light bulb just hit off in my head. I was like, I'm gonna start making better music.
So that was kind of like the catalyst. Like you felt like you'd rather at least show like how much you're inspired by Prince by like improving your own craft.
Yeah, it was just all over but the shout. I learned how to sample better. I learned how to compose better chord progressions, better melodies, and I also learned how to sequence songs to where they are really complicated but simple at the same time. And I developed it over a word that I keep using. I don't know if it's in the dictionary, but my music is a sense of simplexity. Like, it's simple but complex at the same time.
Okay.
Back to Jet Set Radio. By 2018, I went back and listened to a lot of my Jet Set Radio tracks, and I was like, this sounds like garbage. So I just literally sat there for, I want to say, a few months developing the first tribute album, 99th Street Bounce.
Yeah.
And from there, I just wanted to try and see if I can be able to make a name for myself in Jet Set Radio through these songs. And of course, a lot of the songs are rehashes from other tracks that I had released in the time. But what really sort of established the Jet Set Radio sound of my tribute albums to come was the fact that I was able to take different samples, manipulate them in a sense that, you know, made it sound Jet Set Radio-esque, but it didn't really just made you think, but it made you sort of get this vibe that, okay, this sounds like it could be in Jet Set Radio. I like it. And of course, I remember you saying in your review, not all the samples are mixed together. That's only because of the artifacts that I had to deal with certain songs that I wanted to mash up.
Yeah, I felt, I realized in hindsight, I was like, well, to be fair, some of the samples he's not going to be able to get are going to be clean. Like Birthday Cake is going to be the nastiest sample on the whole thing.
It's funny because Birthday Cake didn't really give me much of a headache like the remix that I did of Chosen One from Shadow the Hedgehog.
Okay.
Because I literally had to think, what did I want to do different with Chosen One that hasn't been done before? And the first thing that popped into my mind was Gorillaz. So I legit went and listened to the first album of Gorillaz when they were really in that sort of trip hop, nu metal type of style of 2001. And I tried the best that I could to use the melodica sound, some of the drum breaks that they use, on top of making it unique in its way. And I did sample Scapegoat Wax's IL-10.
Yeah.
And that was a headache within itself because it wasn't in the same chord progression as the rest of the song. But I was like, you know what? We're going to try it and see how it works out.
Gotcha. I haven't listened to the Chosen One remix. You'll have to send it to me after, but I'm sure that you probably killed it, as always. What I wanted to know was, what was probably the hardest track for you to make from 99th Street Bounce?
What was it? I want to say, because I'm trying to remember the track list and what are the songs, because I know there was the remix of, well, the mashup that I did with IL-10 and Humming the Bassline, which was basically like a West Coast G-Funk bounce song that I was trying to manipulate.
Right.
And I used a lot of Snoop Dogg samples, a lot of Ice Cube samples, and I tried the best that I could to make it work. The sample of the song that I used was Ain't No Fun If the Homies Can't Have None, and that was from Snoop Dogg's debut album, Doggy Style. So I tried the best that I could to manipulate it with IL-10 on top of Humming the Bassline and Moody Shuffle. And that's why I think a lot of people like that song more, because every time I go on Bandcamp and look at the track list plays for 99th Street Bounce, that song is at number one. And I was like, okay, I guess y'all like that mashup, so cool. I want to say the hardest song off of 99th Street Bounce was Let the Skank Kick.
Okay.
Because not only did I wanted to try something that mashed up Sonic, Jet Set Radio, and my own style, was the fact that how many samples that I had to choose from every Sonic game and every Jet Set Radio song and made it work. Like, if you can hear, I took samples from Sonic Advance 3, Sonic Rider Zero Gravity, on top of Sonic Rush, and then I also took samples from Jet Set Radio and Jet Set Radio Future, and I mashed them all together in this sort of big beat, The Prodigy, Chemical Brothers type style that made it seem like it was more towards the Skank Funk alias of Hideki Naganuma than his actual works.
Okay.
And that one took me, I think that one took me at least a month and a half, almost.
Just on that track alone?
Just on that track alone.
Damn. Oh man, that's wild.
But it was worth it. I will say that.
Yeah. No, it's definitely worth it. I feel like I've kind of like thought about this for a while, like after listening to your stuff and then Mellow stuff and then like from other artists, like I think it was like the old Other Side Trance album and then like Ayano Ultra. I feel like you kind of fall in that weird middle where it's like your stuff isn't really centered around the samples, but the samples are still pretty present so that people are kind of like, okay, this is very much inspired by Jet Set Radio.
that's pretty much what I had envisioned myself making if I ever was to make Jet Set Radio inspired sounds, because I love sampling. There's not one thing in the world that makes creative arts the way that it is than sampling, reinterpolating, and recreating. And with Ayano Ultra stuff, I like how they could be able to just take a sample from Jet Set Radio and make a completely different song out of it. And I took that as main inspiration for both 99th Street Bounce and Boogie Down Bantam.
Okay.
So from there, it just worked its way in between it all to where it's this kissing cousins, if I can say, sort of sound of both new style with old school way of mixing, editing, sampling, etc., etc. And a lot of people, including Too Mellow, which funny enough, Too Mellow and I had a conversation, and he said the same thing that you said in the interview video. He looked at 99th Street Bounce as a collective of a DJ mix / remixes.
Yeah, because that's how it feels when you like listen to it as a whole piece, because each track kind of flows into one and the other, which I think is sort of like a combination of what you did as a producer and then also DJing, because you could literally just put the whole thing on it. You could play it for like an hour or so and it would just flow naturally.
That's what I wanted to aim towards when I made it. I was like, because when I played Jet Set Radio and Jet Set Radio Future, I noticed that it was trying to tailor towards DJ mixing on a live radio. So I was like, oh, that's cakewalk. So I pretty much, it's cakewalk, because I sat there, listened to the songs, had to reconfigure the track list to see which songs cascaded and flowed so seamlessly to where if you were to listen to the whole thing as a whole, you can tell that, okay, it's starting to calm down, or okay, we getting the hype on the first try. That's lit. So that's what I wanted to do. And people liked it, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna keep doing this.
No, I think it's a cool style, and I don't think it's something you should really stray away from. Now, you just said cakewalk. I thought you were talking about like Cakewalk the DAW, and I thought you were gonna say that you run Cakewalk.
No.
What do you run?
FL Studio all day. FL gang.
See, that's my whole thing. Like, I want to get more into like doing my own stuff. I mostly do like band stuff, like more actual like acoustic band stuff. Kind of I'm trying to think if I want to go with FL Studio or if I want to go with Ableton. So I haven't like figured that out. I just remember as a kid, I kind of messed around with like sound fonts. If you ever did anything with those?
Oh, all the time. Matter of fact, there's a lot of times where I made you've heard of. Now I'm gonna really test your test a little bit of your knowledge. If you listen to my music, I released an EP titled Welcome Back to the Next Level, and that's basically a Sega Genesis inspired EP.
Yeah.
I used the Sega Genesis sound font like a virus.
That's pretty good.
I used it like a virus, and it worked. Because there was songs on Welcome Back to the Next Level that I went and re-listened to, and I was like, yo, what was I doing?
Right. Yeah.
And it sounded so good, I was like, I can't complain. It's Genesis inspired, so go with it.
Yeah.
Go off.
I used to do that with I don't know how much you're into Pokemon, but like I used to flip the Heart Gold and Soul Silver sound fonts because like I was super into like the legendary battles, so I just like pull in that sound font and just like mess around with the instruments, and that was like the most fun shit I had in FL Studio.
Yeah, FL Studio does have a decent sound font, especially if you know how to use it. I do want to say I did use the sound font again for the Sonic Adventure 3 Sonic Battle sound font for Let the Skank Kick.
Okay.
And that works so easily. I was like, bro, I don't even think I need to do anything else.
Yeah.
Because the only thing that I really took from the sound font files was the Acid 303 bass lines that was from Cybertrack Zone of Sonic Advance 3, and I want to say Battle Highway from Sonic Battle. I think that's what it's called. Everything else worked afterwards because it was all in the same key signature, F sharp minor. So I just went with it.
Okay.
With sound fonts in particular, it's kind of a hit or miss depending on what you're trying to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I think it's cool though. It's like almost like a small file that basically gives you the stems of a track.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Depending on where you get it from. So if it's like an arcade cabinet, it gives you the stems. But if it's like, you know, like the Sega Genesis or the Super Nintendo, they're usually a mix between digital audio channel samples and FM frequencies, or just straight sample channels, like if you were doing something with the Super Nintendo sound font.
Interesting, because I mean I really only mess with like DS sound fonts, and they're pretty like in depth because they just pretty much just give you the exact like virtual instruments that play during the track.
DS sound font is a headache. I think with
I
Sonic
might have had
Rush,
an easier time because of I might have had an easier time with Pokemon, but was Sonic Rush kind of annoying?
Sonic Rush, the only thing that really made it tedious was like all the sample and audio files were scattered into the sound font. So I had to listen to each individual channel or category of the sound font to find what it is that I wanted.
Yeah.
And I think one of the many Sonic Rush songs that I remixed at the time was the theme of Blaze's event. Not Villanova, but the theme of Blaze's event.
Okay.
And I love that remix. I posted that remix on my channel, and people love it. I was like, yo, y'all like 90s house music. I see. I appreciate y'all.
I mean, hey, whatever works, man. Whatever you're into, and I feel like people are getting into your stuff, and I like it. I don't know. I'm just into it.
I challenge myself to create a variety of different sounds that not only is tailored to me, but also tailored to what other people like. So if I'm gonna make a new metal track, okay, I'm gonna make a new metal track that sounds like me. If I'm gonna make a hip hop track, like a trap track, like trap,
yeah,
I'm gonna make it sound like me. You know what I mean? If I make a drum and bass track, I'm gonna make it sound like me.
Yeah, exactly. Let's move on from just like the general talk, because I think I'll kind of want to talk to you just about Boogie Down Bantam. Boogie Down Bantam is your new album coming out June 29th for the 20th anniversary of Jet Set Radio. Mm-hmm. Now, I thought this was going to be more Jet Set Radio focused, but it seems like it's kind of like a mashup of both. Would you say that's accurate?
In a sense, you could say that it's more lean towards inspired by Jet Set Radio than it was with 99 Street Bounce. What I wanted to do differently was I wanted to go too mellow route and try to get more inspired by Jet Set Radio and just create something using the samples of Jet Set Radio.
Gotcha.
Not gonna lie to you, Memories of Tokyo Toe was like major for the next album, because I think after I released 99 Street Bounce, I went back and I listened to Memories of Tokyo Toe, and I realized how different it was compared to 99 Street Bounce. And when I made the remix of 24 Hour Party People, which I talked to Tumel about that, he loves it. I wanted to try something a little bit more original while still based around Jet Set Radio. And that's where Boogie Down Bantam comes from.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like, it's less about you flipping the samples to make it sound like a Jet Set Radio feature or Jet Set Radio track, and more just like, these are sounds that I like, I'm inspired by them, let's make something with it.
Pretty much is what I wrote for that one.
I may have just paraphrased you slightly. I don't know, but slightly.
You got it.
I mean, from what I listened to, I was super into. And I mean, like, if for those of you who have seen the trailer for Jet Set Understand, I used one of the tracks from the director's cut of Boogie Down Bantam. So yeah, no, I used one of the tracks for the Jet Set Understand trailer. And I mean, it worked out pretty well. I liked it a lot. That was probably one of my more favorite tracks. What would you say is kind of the difference between like the DX tracks and then the regular tracks?
With Boogie Down Bantam DX, I wanted to try and keep it the same while still managing to do something a little bit more off the beaten path of the original track list of Boogie Down Bantam, because that's why it's called a director's cut. It's director's versions of stuff that was cut from the original release. Same with Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure DX, even though we don't talk about Sonic Adventure DX like that.
Hey, whoa. I liked Sonic Adventure DX. I'm not gonna disregard it.
No
I
disrespect
can mod it on
to
PC.
Right, no disrespect to Sonic Adventure DX. I love the game. It's easy to mod. It's fun to play. But the models, man. Ugh.
I mean, you can just mod in those Sonic Adventure models. That's all I'm saying.
I've
just
done
do
it.
that.
I've done it. Trust me, I've done it. I'm just saying, but
I mean, I didn't even play the Dreamcast version. That's what I started off with. I actually only started off with like Sonic Adventure DX.
me too, man. Me too.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the difference lies with the original Boogie Down Bantam and Boogie Down Bantam DX. Is I wanted to work my magic in a way that it still is Jet Set Radio, but it's DJ Chidow's Jet Set Radio.
Gotcha. Fair enough. I won't fault you on that one. I think it's very interesting. It's definitely more leaning into inspiration, less just like, here's the sample, which I think is cool. Now, I think you had told me this before, but you said that the production of the last album, 99th Street Bounce, was a little tough on you personally. Do you want to talk about that for a bit and then maybe talk about how it might have been different for Boogie Down Bantam?
With 99th Street Bounce in particular, it's a first. So I literally just thought of many different songs that I made for the Jet Set Radio community and just put them all together in an album. So it was like like I said before, it was a DJ set sort of remixes. It's a collection of them. With Boogie Down Bantam, it's more album orientated. You know what I mean? There's an intro, there's an intermission, there's an outro. It's still a DJ mix where it mixes in from different songs like a regular radio, but it gives it this sort of fresh take, like you are about to embark on a story.
So you felt like you might have had a bit more freedom with Boogie Down Bantam comparatively to 99th Street Bounce.
Bar none. I had so much more fun doing Boogie Down Bantam than I did with 99th Street Bounce, especially since I started working on Boogie Down Bantam immediately right after the success of 99th Street Bounce.
You just basically got into it right away.
Right. It just in it. And it took about, I want to say, a whole year to make Boogie Down Bantam, while with 99th Street Bounce, it took 4 years.
Oh, wow. I was not expecting 4 years.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
I'm just saying, 99th Street Bounce took 4 years because of not only me trying to, I wouldn't say fight, but sort of wrap my head around the knowledge of how Jet Set Radio music works, and then trying it.
Okay, that's definitely an interesting statement. I was actually going to ask you this before. What would you say are like some of the biggest musical elements or samples, or what have you? What are the biggest sort of like elements that you would say kind of occupy the most attention when you're trying to make music that sounds like something from Jet Set Radio?
9 times out of 10, when I'm making something that's either inspired by Jet Set Radio or is immediately a remix of Jet Set Radio, always the drums. The drums is the number one thing that I go to first, because if you listen to, let's say, Sneak Man, Electric Toothbrush, even Grace and Glory, the main thing that is unique to most of those songs in Jet Set Radio and in Future is the drums, on top of the other vocal chop samples and maybe here and there some chord progressions, things like that. And, you know, the thing that really puts it close to home with me, besides drums, because like I said, I was self-taught with drumming, was how I could be able to just listen to how crisp and clean a snare drum sounds versus to how dirty and gritty and sort of artifact like SP1200 sample status a drum break is. Like, say if I were to sample James Brown, or if I were to sample, you know,
Almond Break,
the Amen break, or even another drum and bass sample, I would always listen and learn. You know what I mean? I would study different samples, different EQing techniques, different artifacts or effects that I could run through a sample, and just just go with it, just run with it, and then from there it usually builds its way into making the bass, making the chord progressions, looking for vocal samples, and trying to sequence it all out to where it flows, but it's not something that just throws it off completely, if I can say that.
Okay. I mean, it's good to hear from a fellow drummer. I like the fact that you're saying the drums are the biggest part of the Jet Set Radio sound.
Drum gang!
I'm not playing hip-hop stuff or like any sort of Jet Set Radio stuff. I'm more like indie pop, if you can get behind that. I don't know.
Yeah, I can see that. For me personally, I didn't really start off with doing hip-hop. When drumming, I started off with more disco and funk drum licks.
Oh, yeah.
So there's that, and then when I really started to get more prominent in practicing, then that's when I started doing hip hop and everything like that. And I was like, I can get it.
I mean, like Cold Sweat by James Brown. That's the real drum break. That shit's fun to play.
Funky, straight funky. With that song, technically he only had one actual drumstick, and that was for the snare, and then for the hi-hat he used a tambourine.
What?
Yeah, that's why when you hear it, the tambourine sounds so clean with the hi-hat, because he's on time with the tambourine and the hi-hat. And the hi-hat is closed anyway, so when he hits it, you don't really hear it as much, but it's there.
I mean, that's wild. I was not expecting that. I mean, I don't think my ears were trained when I listened to Cold Sweat last time, but I can't say I actually noticed that. So, fun fact, I guess, about the drummer from James Brown.
I'm telling you, man, Clive Stubblefield, a bad man. We bad with it, bro. That is actually one of my main inspirations for drumming, next to Questlove.
Yeah.
And just calling it for what it is. And
yeah. All right. These are probably going to be more like rapid fire because we're kind of winding down. Because, I mean, you covered a lot about your own albums. I feel like I should lighten you up with maybe something a little less heavy.
I was going to talk about the skits. I mean, if you want to talk about the skits, we can talk about the skits, but, it's up to you.
Okay, that's an interesting question because obviously with a lot of, like, hip-hop albums, there are skits, like, in the middle of between songs, kind of like to break things up if you're listening to it as, like, an experience rather than just, like, tracks. So was that kind of the reason why you went with the skits for Boogie Down Bantam? With 99th Street Bounce, there's like Rain, whereas basically you just kind of like, it was like more of an atmospheric break, and then like Boogie Down Bantam had more like actual talking breaks. So what was the reason why you went with that over something more atmospheric like in 99th Street Bounce?
Well, you kind of hit it on the nail with the hip-hop albums having skits in the middle. I grew up listening to a lot of albums that had that, and there was always this one thing that ran through my head, like if I were to find people who were just as interested in making an album with me, even if it's for skits or even for like singing or whatever, I would be down with it. So with Boogie Down Bantam, I had recently got in contact with a predominantly Canadian. His name is Vidal Gabriel. Shouts out to Vidal Gabriel if he's listening in. We met through Jet Set Radio Live, and our friendship sort of cascaded after that point. And I want to say by the time it reached the pinnacle peak of 99th Street Bounce, when it got popular, the idea was running through my head to try to make a story where it's like, so let's look at it from the perspective of a new Rudy. Like, okay, what's this whole Jet Set Radio world like? I'm a new Rudy here. I'm trying to figure out the culture. You know what I mean? So I want to learn about all this. And that's where the idea of Boogie Down Bantam comes from, was say you're a noob Rudy and you're learning about the GGs, you're learning about the different rival gangs and everything like that. That's where the idea sort of cascaded with, on top of, still trying to make the radio-inspired DJ setup of the rest of the other songs. And the biggest issue that I had to run with was, who did I want it to play for the specific Rudies, and how was it going to be delivered? Immediately, the only thing that I thought of was Future and two Rudies. with a noob, which I played the role as a noob Rudy. I wouldn't say I played the role as a noob Rudy, but I was kind of like that intermediate sort of GG that is like, he's around, but he's not really doing much. Like Clutch, like how Clutch was in Future. Like he was there, but he was like, wasn't there. So,
yeah.
I went to work, I told Vidal about it, and I was like, the only issue that I'm going to face is who is going to play DJ Professor K? Because if you listen to DJ Professor K, his voice has bass.
Yeah, it's Billy Brown, so it's going to have that nice deep tone anyway.
So, at this time, I got back into Twitter, and I went to Twitter, and I was like, yo, I need somebody to voice DJ Professor K. If you want to know any more about it, hit me up on a DM, shoot me an email of a demo that you have of DJ Professor K, whatever it may be, and I'll go from there. So it's kind of like an impromptu
casting call,
basically. I didn't get nobody to do DJ Professor K. So I was just sitting here banging my head up against the wall, running around like a chicken with his head cut off, trying to figure out who the hell is gonna be Professor K. Then Vidal Gabriel comes a knocking, and he was like, I'll tackle it. And I was like, you know what? Since I ain't got nobody else, show me what you got. He sent me a demo, and I was like, you know what? This'll work.
Yeah.
It may need a little bit of altering here and there, but it works. So I got him, and I was like, okay, what other Rudies do I want? And at that time, I was really getting back into nu metal, so I was like, Cube over here looking kind of sexy, so, I'm just gonna have to slide up in there and say, yeah, let me get Cube up in here. And then, of course, the homie Clutch, I like Clutch because of how much of a douchebag he is, but he's cool at the same time. So I was like, screw it.
I agree to disagree, but keep going.
You know what I mean? A lot of people don't like Clutch because, he took your graffiti souls in Future, and that's what makes him a douchebag. But when you find him and you about ready to beat his ass, he's like, all right, cool. You got me.
Yeah, he just kind of gives up right away. So basically, Clutch is a giant coward. That's all.
It is what it is. I can't really complain. So,
yeah.
So at that, I was like, okay, cool. I have DJ Professor K, Clutch, Cube, and I was like, I don't know if I should add myself or not. And then when I really thought about it, I was like, screw it. I'm going with it. So I had all the characters up together. I wrote the script out. I found somebody to play Clutch. Shout us out to my homie Jack Spade. He nailed Clutch like a freaking, I don't know what the word is that goes with nail, like hammered. I don't know. He did Clutch so good. I was like, bro, you need to get hired if they ever make a Jet Set Radio fan game. And I might hit up Screen Racer and be like, hey, yo, if you need somebody to get Clutch, I got somebody who will probably do it for the low. Just let me talk to him for a little bit. You know what I mean? So Clutch was easy. And then what the biggest one that I had to tackle the most was Cube. Cube was hard because I don't know a whole lot of female VAs that can be able to nail this sort of tomboyish gothic, I don't really care, I'm just here type of personality.
Sure.
And the person who actually recommended somebody to voice Cube was Jax himself. And he was like, yo, see if you could hit up Loxy. And I was like, okay, I'll ask. And I asked her, and she was like, that's probably one of my best Jet Set Radio voices that I could do. And I was like, all right, bet. You send me a demo, whatever it may be, let's get this going. And she nailed it too. I'm like, oh my God, bro, what is going on? I found some good voice actors. Shouts out to Loxy. I love you, homegirl. You did awesome. And when it was all said and done, we had a Discord call where we recorded our lines, and there was some outtakes and some bloopers here and there, and it made it funny because we was sitting over there cracking jokes while still recording and doing some outtakes and everything like that. And when it was all said and done and I got the files back from them and I was able to put it all together in the project, it was all over. I had all the skits basically, and I just went with it and made the rest of the album that way.
That's how it all came to be.
That's how it all started. That's how it all wrote it. It just started with the skits, ended with the tracks, finalized with the director's cut. Done.
Hey, I can't fault you. It sounds good. I feel like everyone's gonna be pretty impressed. You know what? Let's end off with maybe some more stuff. I feel like people got a pretty good idea of what's going on with Boogie Down Bantam. What's your take on some of the other more prominent Jet Set Radio producers? Like, what's your opinion on like Ayano Ultra stuff, Too Mellow stuff, like other stuff that you hear?
With some of what I heard in recent times, getting back into the Jet Set Radio community and listening to the fan remixes and fan and album tributes, I can tell you without a doubt, they're all unique in its own way. I don't have a personal preference here to say if I hear something that I like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With Too Mellow in particular, that's the homie, man. When I heard Memories of Tokyo Toe, there was about maybe 6 tracks that I can point out that I really like. Predominantly, my 2 favorite would have to be what is it, Ba Ba Bada and 24 Hour Party People.
Okay.
I want to say with Ayano Ultra stuff, Professor K's unreleased rap and made a song out of it. I was like, nobody's ever done that before. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think you just kind of appreciate what everyone else is trying to do at the same time. I don't feel like it should be a competition because, you know, it's such a small community. I don't think it needs to be a thing where people are trying to one-up each other.
It shouldn't. I mean, looking at the Jet Set Radio community now, especially with DJ Professor K on Twitter, everybody is really pestering SEGA about making another Jet Set Radio. And I don't see nobody saying, well, you know, think of it like this, da 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 da. It's like, no, we want Jet Set Radio. We don't care how we get it. We just want it.
Yeah. Well, I guess speaking of competition or that sort of line of thinking, I had a weird idea. I was thinking of maybe getting like all the artists together to do like a flip challenge. So like I drop a sample and everybody's got to flip it. And then we kind of just gauge it, like kind of just like listen to all the tracks and figure out like, you know, who's doing like the most faithful kind of sound. What do you think about that idea?
Like a producer beat battle. I like that idea, honestly.
Yeah.
It's really giving this sort of, it's all competition but love at the end of the day. And people could gain sort of criticism from another producer, and another producer could be like, well, I think of it like this, and you could take it however you want, but this, that, and the third. And you know, I respect that in the sense of, you know, it just works, you know, because the Jet Set Radio community, like I said before, we're like a loving together sort of community, like the GGs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody's different, but we all have this sort of same understanding of, you know, fighting the power.
Actually, that might actually go into my next question. What does Jet Set Radio mean to you personally?
Damn, you had to hit me with that.
Yeah.
Let me see. When I was younger, Jet Set Radio was kind of that game that I just grazed past. Like, it wasn't interesting to me. And that's only because I was a young and dumb child. You know what I mean? By the time I got older and I matured more and I started understanding my personal life, especially, you know, me being a young black man in the society that we're in now, I looked at Jet Set Radio in a sense of, you know, we're fighting the power that be. We're looking at things that don't really make sense and we're challenging it. What Jet Set Radio really meant to me, especially in recent times, was it's my childhood. It's basically how I grew up and basically what I went through my middle school life to my high school life to now being in college. It showed that there's a lot of stuff happening in the world, but one thing you cannot take is the love that you have or the passion that you desire the most in life. For me, it's music, being together with family, helping other people out, and being able to understand that everybody has a purpose for something, whether it may be for art, whether it may be for performance, or whether it may be for anything in between, or even working a 9 to 5. That's what really nailed the understanding that I had with both Jet Set Radio and Jet Set Radio Future, we're fighting the government, but at the same time, we're telling the government we just want freedom and we don't want it any other way but how it is.
Can't fault you. That's a good answer. That's a really good answer.
I'm a philosophical type of dude. I literally sit and meditate most times, and I think about things that I have a genuine concern and question about. I do research. I do any sort of extended knowledge to see if I could reach myself into better understanding the wisdom that is given to me, because there's a lot of untapped potential and wisdom that is being overlooked because of the sort of, what's the word I'm looking for, sort of limitations that we're given. Limiting internet,
right,
limiting knowledge of books and everything like that. It's basically what Jet Set Radio was telling us. It's like the government is really doing its job with this new Rokaku plan.
Now it's an interesting perspective. I mean, I didn't look at it that way. I mean, for me, I kind of see it more as like, even though like there's like a lot of, craziness going on around you, the big thing is to always just keep your own personal freedom of expression alive, or else you might, drown in the entire situation. But I don't know if that's a hot take, not a hot take. That's just sort of how I view it.
I can say it's not a hot take, but that's only because I looked at other people's perspective and kind of gained a knowledge out of that. But if you look at it from another person who isn't really knowledgeable on this type of stuff, they might look at it as a hot take. But who are they to decide what you do with your life, man?
I guess that's true. Let's end off with maybe the most controversial question I think I've had for the entire podcast. Do you think we will ever get a new Jet Set Radio game, whether it be from SEGA or somebody else?
From SEGA, hell no. But if an indie developer, like how Christian Whitehead worked with Sonic Mania or how Dottie Mew did with Streets of Rage 4, maybe.
Yeah.
Because it's coming from a group of passionate people, and they want something different that obviously SEGA is failing to do.
Right.
And if you look at how, say from a business perspective, like how Screen Racer put it, SEGA doesn't look at a game, if it doesn't sell well, they won't do it again.
Yeah.
That's why we haven't got another Rise Star. We haven't gotten another Knights. We barely even scratched the surface with Shenmue.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I don't even think we might get another Phantasy Star if So 2 does any better.
I mean, that's free to play, but it's a little different because I don't even think they've done like an actual Phantasy Star RPG in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute since they did it. I mean, if you look at what SEGA is really focused on now, especially in Japan, Yakuza, Sakura Wars, Sonic.
Yeah.
Over in America, Sonic.
Yeah, true.
I'm getting to the point now where I'm getting a headache about how much they are milking Sonic right now. And I'm glad. Okay, SEGA, if you watch this video right now and you get to this part, stop making Sonic. Go to your different other IPs. I swear to God, you need to look at how your fan base is talking to you.
So, sum it up. No Jet Set Radio from a main SEGA developer, but maybe if they license it out to like an indie guy to get published by SEGA.
That's pretty much where it is at this point, because any other SEGA IP that they think of is not going to happen. Like, if they may put some effort towards it, but realistically, who are they to like really say, oh, this will be good? I mean, if you look at the last Jet Set Radio attempt from Dinosaur Games, they just cut it. They just said no. And I just looked at that and I was like, are you serious? Don't look at this. And it got so much attention that Sony was like, yo, if y'all do this, maybe we can make it a PlayStation exclusive.
Yeah.
But SEGA.
SEGA just doesn't want to do it, I guess. But that doesn't mean it doesn't stay alive with the whole community.
That's honestly what majority of the games that nowadays are doing. With Sonic, fan community. With Streets of Rage, fan community. Even with Shenmue 3 that came out, it was the fan community. And it's getting to the point now where it's like, if SEGA keeps licensing these people to do their IPs, shouldn't you guys look at your business perspective a little bit differently than how y'all doing it now? That's just my hot take, you know what I mean? I don't know much about the industry in terms of gaming. I just play video games, and if I like it, I like it. If I don't like it, I'll uninstall it or I'll take it back to the game store.
Right. Well, I mean, I'd wager that that's probably going to be the way it goes if it does happen.
I hope it does too, because that not only that, it gives a chance for people in the community, especially with the musicians that are in the Jet Set Radio community, an opportunity to make and create and be able to forward ideas, you know? Just going off of that alone says a whole lot of opportunities that can be opened up with just a snap of a finger, like a Thanos snap of a finger.
I mean, they can't really license Thanos, but that's a whole other ballpark issue with licensing.
You get what I mean.
But yeah, exactly. All right, man. I think that's pretty much it for me. Thanks so much for doing this interview. Where can people find your stuff?
If you want to get caught up in the shades of the underground, you can hit me up wherever you want to be, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Discord, YouTube, SoundCloud, Bandcamp. If you want to continue to support my music, listen to my music and buy my music at Bandcamp. And if you are more interested in learning about my life and the things that I do on a living, subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the bell. My name is the same all the way around the corner, DJ Chidow and Mujiku. If you also want to just come chill with your boy, come talk to me, I'm everywhere, you know what I mean? Just come say hi. If you're in the Jet Set Radio Future multiplayer server, I'm there once in a while, so you can come say hi. If you're in the Reddit of the Jet Set Radio Discord server, come say hi to me. Even if you're in other Jet Set Radio community Discords or even on Twitter, shoot me a DM, shoot me an email, whatever it may be. I will respond. I'm not that type of person where I don't talk to my fans or I don't talk to random people. I'm a charismatic social butterfly, as they call me.
Right on. I don't think you could have done it any better. Go check out Boogie Down Bantam. It's coming out June 29th for the 20th anniversary of Jet Set Radio. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm FalseProof here with DJ Chidow, and stay tuned for more content from Jet Set Understand.